Today, I present to you guys the 24 hours of BMW part out marathon. So, this is the black 525 that's been sitting in the front yard for a month now with the 5-speed swap. I told you guys I'm parting this thing out. So I'm on spring break, so I got the chance to finally pull it out. So I gotta do this, and I gotta do that other 525i by Thursday before I leave for Colorado. So that's why I'm calling this the 24 hours of BMW part out. You know, 24 hours of Le Mans, 24 hours of E34 part out, whatever. But so like I said, this will probably be more of a informational video for you guys that maybe have E34s, or I guess have any M50 car in general, E36, E30, whatever. If you gotta pull your motor, do maintenance, I'm gonna show you guys how to strip this whole motor out. And yeah, I'm not gonna like film like pulling everything. I mean, maybe I will, I don't know, we'll see what I want this video to be. We're gonna get right to the point, teach you guys how to pull this motor. So to start, some people like to leave all the core support in and whatnot and pull the motor from the top. I could see why you would want to do that if you have to put a motor back in, because mainly if you have working AC, the lines go through the core support. So what I always do is I just chop the lines with an angle grinder because there's no refrigerant in this. So if you have AC, it's kind of a pain, so you might want to just pull it from the top. But for these parts cars, since I'm selling all this stuff anyway, and I'm throwing the AC in the junk because that's garbage, I pull off all this. So I start with taking off the grills. I already have most of this off. You know, obviously first things first, take the hood off. And the front grille, I already have that off, so I gotta take these, the headlights, the front core, and then I think you just start unbolting the core support, cut these. This is not bad. A lot of these, most of the times, all these stupid plastic screws that hold the headlights in are C's and they just strip. These ones are coming out nice and easily, which is cool. All right, so we got both the headlight grills out. If you don't know, screw here, screw here, screw here, and then screw here behind the, or with this thing. So that's the grills, screws. So for headlights, 1, 2, 3, I believe that's it. And I think there's some that hold the corners in. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull those out now, and then I'll come back once that's all off. So this headlight's really easy to get out. For this side, it gets a little more tricky because the thing that holds the corner in, which is, I guess you could detach the corner from the headlight themselves, but I just leave them together. So there's a screw right there, and the charcoal canister gets in your way, and the power steering gets in your way, and the airbox is kind of in the way. So what I do is pull out the airbox so you have more room. I leave this for now. If anything, I unbolt it, and then I pull out the charcoal canister. There's 3 bolts down here that are really awkward to get to. Once you get that out, then you can get to the last screw for the headlights. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so I got the headlights out. Now I'm draining all the coolant. I got the car up in the air because now I'm gonna pull the radiator off the core support. So letting the coolant drain. Radiator's out. So next, so right now basically I'm expelling all the fluids out of the car. So I used to just undo the power steering lines and make a freaking mess, but now I got a turkey baster, or whatever the hell you would call this. So now I just pull all the fluid out of the reservoir, so there's a lot less to spill later on, because there's already all the lines here, and then the stupid power steering cooler lines here will leak really badly. So I get as much as I can out of here, and then from here I'm gonna cut these. This I would normally salvage to keep, but I'm still holding on to one from a parts car from like a year ago. These don't sell, so I'm just gonna cut it here because fishing it out is just a pain in the ass. So there's one bolt, it's actually at the top. There's one bolt that holds those cooler lines right here. So that's how those come out. And then for the core support, you got a bolt there, a bolt down behind this, kind of a pain. One there, and then another one down behind there. And then you got these stupid like rubberized guards that are held in by push pins that are so hard to get out. So then these all gotta be pulled out to get the core support. You gotta undo both the horns, pull those out, fish all the wiring out from these grommets that are in the core support. Then you got a bolt here, 2 here, Same thing on this side. And then 2 bolts that hold in the AC condenser, and then the core support should just pull right out. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. And I recommend, if you're doing this, definitely get a box for all the bolts and nuts and all the random small stuff. I really like having these because when you buy as many E34s as I do, most of them are missing stuff. So just dig through here and you'll find most of the bolts and stuff you need, which is super helpful. That goes for any BMW. You guys probably already know that by now. So if you're gonna do this, obviously make sure you have no AC, and then that's gonna leak regardless. But if you cut through this and you have AC in here, you are gonna get sprayed with refrigerant. I have been there, it is not fun, so make sure you have no AC. Yeah, so as you can see, I just cut the power steering. Screw this thing on that. It's a waste of space in the basement for storing. Doesn't sell, so I cut it. These are cut, no AC, so there we go. Core support is off and away, so is the condenser. So now this is what you're left with. You got easy access to the motor. Motor mount, one there, one there. So what I do next is, man, it's been a little while since I've done this. Jesus, tripping. I pull off all the like hoses, so like throttle or the intake tube, unhook all these, pull off the vacuum lines, get rid of all the coolant lines, and then I'll probably undo the motor mounts and then rip this AC crap out. Right now I have the exhaust manifold studs. I have them soaking in screw loose. You could pull the headers off and leave the exhaust, but I'm gonna leave the headers on this motor because I think I'm selling this full motor. So you gotta separate it from the 3 that go to the rest of the exhaust. There's 3 on each header. Those all break, so be careful. That's why I'm soaking them in PB blaster so the studs don't snap. So worst case, you need new headers, you need new studs for the headers. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and undo all this crap. This part's pretty intuitive. I mean, you basically just look around and find the hoses, that anything that's attached, and just undo them, you know? All right, so it got cold outside, so I had to close the door and turn on the heat. So I removed the secondary throttle body. I removed a bunch of hoses here. So now next is something that you don't necessarily have to do to pull the motor, but I do this almost always, especially because I separate the harness. So now I pull off the intake manifold. So there's a bolt in each slot, basically one here, 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 and then the hardest one is behind the under the FPR. So you got those 7 which hold it on. So there's those, and then there's the there's 2 10mm brackets under it that go to the block. There's one here and one here, or under there. You can either undo them at the block or you can undo them here. So time to do that, and then once you pull this up, you'll find that there's a couple more hoses to undo in the throttle cables. Normally I can do the throttle cables while everything's in place, but this one's being a pain, so I'm just gonna pull the manifold up and do it from there. Then you also gotta undo the fuel lines here and here that go into the rail and pull out the rail. So, oh, and you gotta pop the injector harness off right here. That just pops up. So that's what I'm gonna go do now. So before you do this, unbolt the bolt that attaches the dipstick to the bracket, because I just ripped the dipstick out of the pan. Not that it's a big deal, but you know. So after fighting with this for 20 minutes, I forgot how annoying it is pulling the intake manifold off an untouched car. Because if you've had any one of these cars that's been worked on, like the manifold off, half the stupid stuff underneath is not there anymore. Like these stupid brackets. Whoever replaces the manifold and bolts these in, you're doing too much. So basically, taking the manifold off, right? So you got these bolts, like I said. You got this vacuum line that goes to the FPR. You got to undo that. IAT right here. And then you got a vacuum hose for the ICV here. Pull that off. Stupid throttle body heater things. These will hold you back, and they're so crusty. They're seized on there. You got those, then you got the two, where are they? The two throttle body that hold the throttle cables right here. Those bolt in right around here. So you got all that. I think that's about it for the manifold. Huge pain in the ass to take off of a stock car. So, I mean, like my turbo M50, I could pull this thing off in like 3 minutes because none of that stupid crap is still like bolted in down there. So this is the mess that you're left with underneath the manifold. So now what I'm gonna do is pull off the coolant hoses. You don't need these. Most of the times I pull the harness off the motor when I pull these because I sell everything separate. But like I said, I think I'm selling this whole motor together. So I think I'm gonna leave the harness all attached to the motor. And then when I pull it, you just gotta undo it from the firewall, pull it out of there, and then it wraps around into this, pull those, and then the harness will come with it. So I'm gonna leave that for now. I did the exhaust manifolds. Luckily, you can't really see anything. None of the studs snapped, so the exhaust is ready to come off the motor. Then after that, really, I'm gonna undo the AC lines. Normally I cut them, but I'm gonna try to salvage the AC unit. And then 2 motor mounts, and then we're gonna get down and we're gonna do the trans and the drive shaft, which is my least favorite part of this whole thing. The exhaust is out. I pulled it out, so now we got so much room for activities. So the next step is pulling the drive shaft off the trans. This is the same for auto and manual, but manual's a little easier to get to it. So basically this is what you're looking at, the Guibo, or the Gibo, should I say. So you can see here, there's 3 that hold the drive shaft to the Gibo. There's 3 that hold the Gibo to the trans. We're gonna pull the ones that are bolting the Gibo to the trans. And we're gonna pull this as one piece. So time to pull that out. And after we undo these, then it's gonna be time to, I'm just gonna pull the drive shaft. So then you wanna do the center support bearing, which is gonna be under this thingy. So what I did was actually take off the whole trans brace, because what you have to do is cross hold these, and you have to get the wrench on this side, and honestly, if you don't pull the brace off, it's just gonna piss you off. I've done this so many times with the brace on. It's just, you gotta get the drive shaft right in the right spot. It's such a pain in the ass. So I just pulled it off. Your trans isn't gonna fall. Now what you wanna do is, these are 18s, by the way. So undo these with an 18 mil wrench, an 18 mil socket, and then the drive shaft will come out. A little piece of advice that I forget every time. So what you wanna do is leave the car in neutral, leave the parking brake down. What you wanna do is you wanna put your wrench that you're gonna hold, you're gonna cross hold with, and you wanna set it up on the nut. And then what you wanna do is twist the drive shaft so that that wrench that you're holding it with gets butted up against the arm, the bracket for the mount. So this way you can operate the drive shaft to counter hold the wrench for you, because these are really tight. You're not gonna be able to hold them both with one hand, and getting the wrench in a spot where it can actually stay up without falling is a pain in the ass. So this is the easiest way to do it. So you don't even have to put the parking brake back on because you're cross holding this. So and this works out best. This is the easiest way. It'll save you a lot of frustration. Once you have those 3 bolts out, undo the center support bearing, and then you can just pull the drive shaft right off the trans. And then from here, what you're left with is all the shifter arm stuff. So basically you see the bushing right here. There's 1 nut on the other side. You pull that, and then if you take the shift knob off, you should just be able to pull the arm down through the hole, and you can leave all the linkages attached. And if it doesn't come all the way down, when you lift the motor to pull it with the hoist, the trans comes down, so it'll come down. I've pulled a trans like this before with everything attached. If you're afraid to do that, or you're not sure that you want to do that, you can undo the clips. There's the one here, one here. Sorry, I'm trying to line it up with my finger and the camera without looking. So, and then one there. Then you can pull this arm off. And then there's another one up at the top there that holds the other linkage in. So you can pull all the linkage off, but otherwise you should just be able to leave it in. I know for sure on E34s you can. And then aside from that, there's this stupid bracket here. So there's a nut here and a nut, another one on the other side. That's what holds this brace to the trans, to the, I don't know, the subframe. That's, most people when they put a trans in don't actually put that brace back in. So you gotta undo those. And then everything underneath with the trans is done. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, then you gotta pull the slave cylinder out. So, brace, slave, and linkage, and then you're done under here. Unplug the reverse light harness, obviously. So, and then we can go back up top. I haven't been doing a lot of like time-lapse footage of me doing things because, to be honest, it's pretty annoying. Like, having to strip down a car, then have to like mess with the camera, get the angle right. But this stuff isn't in depth enough. If this is like your first time, message me, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, I don't care. Comment, I can walk you through it in more detail. I think I'm giving enough detail doing this, but then again, I've done this probably like 7 times now, so maybe it might not be, so I apologize if it's not. Just message me and we'll talk. All right, here we are. I finished up taking the last couple of bolts off underneath. I did the motor mounts. So here I got the hoist hooked up. So on the M50, you got a nice bracket right in the front, and then you got a nice bracket right above the starter, where the trans meets the motor. So hooked those up, got the chain, and now it's time to lift her up. So let's see how it goes. Sometimes these pull easy, sometimes not so much. E34s are really nice though, especially with the front end off, because you don't have to lift the motor that high. Then you just pull it straight out, and the steering box is in the rear, so it doesn't get in the way in the front like E36s. So let's get this going. That's never happened before. So let's see what went wrong here. Wow. Actually nothing. The chain just slipped off the hook, which is 100% my fault. That's pretty stupid of me. So I guess I'm gonna reattach that and try again. Damn. All right, well, don't do what I did. Make sure that the hook is actually on the thing. Get to pull the terminal off the starter. There's one that goes from the distribution box right here. So that and the coolant line was like, it's like I don't even know what to call it. It's like bounded to the body with some like little stupid twist tied dumb things. So this and that look to be the only 2 things hanging me up. Otherwise, it's actually pulling out really nicely. And there we are. We have the M50 out of its home in the E34. So yeah, that went really nicely, except for the first slip up of it falling. That was pretty sketchy. But here's the engine bay, no motor. So now without that in there, the rest of the part out basically is ABS module, brake booster, the master. I gotta pull the slave, cruise control. So for those of you having to deal with those pesky drive shafts to get it out of the diff, normally on E34s it is so seized, and I've tried everything and it's such a pain. So this, actually credit to this goes to my dad. He came out here and helped me one day remove a drive shaft. So we have this little tag along thing. So you'll see I wrapped a chain around the U-joint right here, bolted the chain, and then put the hook around it. So then you got the, here, I'll bring it around so you guys can actually see the thing. All right, so then you come up here for this stupid drive shaft. So up here we have the actual winch. You can see down there the wire. You got the chain tied around the subframe. So then you crank this, and that should just pull the drive shaft out. God, man. Kind of crazy how stiff, how seized this drive shaft is. I actually gotta use 2 freaking hands for this thing. Location. So you can see what she pulls out. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's how you do it. Just like that. These things do not like coming out. So I mean, think about the force that this thing just did, like pulling. Imagine like what you would do without that. Like, this is an ingenious way to pull drive shafts. For the axles, I don't think, you know, it's pretty intuitive. You get down here, you got Allen's there, both sides. Do the inner ones on the diff first because your e-brake is the only thing now holding them in place. Then you got three diff mounts, 1 in the front and then 2 on each side, 1 on that side, 1 on this side, like just like this. That's the only thing that holds that diff in. Got the shell all loaded up. So I pulled it up on the trailer and I dropped the whole front subframe because there's some goodies on here that I want, like the steering box and the it's got Bilsteins on it, which is cool. And so yeah, here she is. Sad sight. Completely stripped, except for that seat I couldn't get out, obviously. Just laying on her front frame. But that's that. That's the circle of life for the E34.